I'm not. I'm gonna, Shoshana isn't.
I'll miss you.
Thank you. Your mother told you to say that.
No, she
Probably.
did not.
Yeah.
She did not.
All set? Okay, I'm going to call the special meeting of the Board of Aldermen to order on Monday, October 25th, 2021 at 7 PM in the Aldermanic Chamber, as well as via Zoom teleconference. The prayer will be offered by Deputy Clerk Allison Waite, and Alderwoman at Large Shoshana Kelly will lead us in the pledge to the flag.
Almighty God, we have the high honor and the serious duty to manage the affairs of our beloved city. Fill us, O God, with a spirit of unity and understanding, which enables us to face our multiple problems with a serene mind, with justice and charity for all, so that any and all decisions made by us will always be for the betterment and greater happiness of all our fellow citizens. So help us God. Amen.
I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
To join by Zoom, please refer to the agenda or the website for the meeting link and telephone number. Let's start the meeting by taking a roll call attendance. When each member states their presence, please indicate if participating by Zoom, state why you are not meeting in person and whether there is anyone in the room with you during this meeting, which is required under the right to know law. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Alderman O'Brien.
Present.
Alderman Clee.
Here.
Alderwoman Kelly.
Here.
Alderman Dowd.
Present.
Alderman Karen.
Here.
Alderman Clemens.
Here.
Alderman Lopez. Alderman Tenza.
Present.
Alderwoman Lou.
Here.
Alderman Jettie.
Here.
Alderman Schmidt. Alderman Laws.
I'm here. I'm participating by Zoom because I have a baby and no babysitter.
Alderman Cleaver. Alderman Harriet Gabright.
Present.
And Alderman Wilshire.
I am here, and I did hear from Alderman Lopez, who was unable to join us, and Alderman Schmidt, who was unable to join us this evening.
Perfect. All right, you have 11 in attendance and 1 via Zoom.
Thank you very much. As is customary, I will turn the public hearing over to Chairman of the Budget Review Committee, Alderman Dowd.
Yes, tonight we're going to have a public hearing on R21-177 relative to the supplemental appropriation of $250,000 of FY 2021 assigned fund balance into fund number 6500, Property and Casual Self-Insurance Fund. Mayor, I believe you wanted to open it?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. So, as you see from the resolution, we are proposing to transfer $250,000 from what is called the assigned fund balance. Now, these are funds held in reserve for, and these are designated for unanticipated liabilities. And that's what we have here. And you're going to hear, and I'm going to introduce Ms. Kleiner and Ms. Deshay in a moment. But what we have are a group of serious workers' comp cases, serious injuries. No question, apparently, that they are work-related. And as a result of this group of very significant cases, the risk pool, which was estimated at about $4 million this year, according to the actuaries, is a little short in order to pay all of these claims. So that's the proposal, and I will introduce now Ms. Kleiner and Ms. Deshay to give you more of the details.
Would you like to come up and? They do have a presentation, which they will introduce in a moment, and give an explanation of the actions that are being taken, and then if members of the Board of Aldermen have questions.
Certainly. Kim Kleiner, Administrative Services Director, and we just have 3 brief slides. The main purpose of these slides is to ensure you that Our property and casualty fund is in good shape. It is stable. We are not seeing claims that are out of the ordinary. We're just in a situation this year where the expenses last year brought the fund low. And now with the incurred but not received claims, which get booked to the previous fiscal year, it has brought the fund into a deficit. So, Ms. Grant?
Yes, we'll bring the presentation up. Alderman Lopez has joined us on Zoom.
Give me 1 second.
So the first slide, if you can see it, realize it's small, it has a lot of data. And we do have copies of the presentation if you'd like it. Ms. DeShays has copies. But this is to show you that relatively year to year, our total revenue, total expenses, and ending balance has stayed fairly steady, from year to year, it's quite consistent. What you'll see at the top there is in 2021, with the booking of this $541,000 incurred but not received, it, for the first time, brought the fund into a deficit of about $211,000. Moving into fiscal '22, our current year, what we realized, we knew we were going to have some increase in our property and liability policies. So this year, instead of funding the fund $3.8 million, what you saw was a transfer at budget time, if you might remember, of 4.2. So looking at the fund, if we were to look at the fund today, that $211,000 deficit has already decreased of a deficit to $49,000. What we do expect, each year, we fund the account twice. So half of the annual appropriation goes in July when the budget is passed, and half of it goes in January. So we will have another $2.1 million that's transferred as part of the budget process in January. Looking at the expenses of fiscal '22 so far to date, we're trending favorably. Most of the policies have been paid, and our claims are trending fine. So we're not concerned with this. But what we do need to do is bring the fund into a healthy balance, and that's what the 250 will do. It will bring that $49,000 deficit that we see today to a roughly $200,000. Ms. Graham? So here we're just showing you, from year to year, we have funded the account approximately the same amount. We had a slight increase over in fiscal 2020, but other than that, we've always averaged right around, $3.8 million until this year is when the Board of Aldermen approved the $4.2 million. To the right, you're going to see the change in the incurred but not received. And that is a report that is prepared by our actuaries based on the trends. And Ms. DeShays is going to tell you about everything that goes into that report. Her office works very hard to give the actuaries all the data that they need to estimate that trend. And this last slide's just showing you, these are our claims. So our automobile, our property, our general liability, and our workman's comp. And as you can see, they have remained pretty consistent. We have our ups and downs, different years, but nothing out of the ordinary. And again, this year, so far for fiscal '22, of course, we're not that far through it, so I'll do a little knock. But so far, so good. We are trending favorably. But what I will ask is, Ms. DeShays is going to give you just a little bit about what goes into the incurred but not received report, which is what we book for trending claims. We just want to be careful to say that not necessarily will these claims hit, but it is the actuaries doing their due diligence so that we remain and keep our reserves in a healthy balance.
Mr.
So as the mayor said, the IBNR increase is basically being driven by 3 workers' comp claims, all of them back injuries. All of them have had surgery, these claimants, and they've been out of work. Important to point out that the increase that you're seeing is for the life of the claim, and that life of the claim changes, they're living documents. So cases are reserved at the worst case scenarios, their estimates, and they change based on claim activity, but that's not the only thing that goes into the IBNR. If you have changes in state and federal laws, cost of health care, claim administration costs, if your number of claims fluctuates from one year to another, your state fees, collections, subrogations, liens, insurance contribution versus self-insurance, the lifespan of a claim, your interest rates. So there's so much like countrywide trending, inflation, all that goes into that number. It's not just the claims. And again, that number can change as the life of the claim. Claims are open for the life of a person. So it's not budgetary year. That increase is for the life of any claims that you see.
All set? Mr. Shane? Are you all set?
Yes, I'm all set, I'm sorry.
Okay, we have a question from Alderman Lopez. Alderman Lopez?
Yeah, and just for the record, I am alone. I'm in my office on exit 1, and I just couldn't get transportation back to the special board without holding everybody up. So my question is, Ms. Kleiner had mentioned that we typically put funding into this budget biannually, but this particular year, we went into a deficit. Sounds like over 2/3 of it you've already kind of pulled out of, and that we're looking for ways to do this in a more healthy manner. I'm just a little bit, I want to understand the predictability of this situation. Is this like a fallout from 2020 and we don't want to account for it in our regular planning? You know, like there's an ongoing global disaster, which, you know, the like of which we've never seen. So you wouldn't plan business as usual during that? Or is this something maybe attributable to growth or changes in deficits? Is this something we should adjust for? Like maybe try to review it every quarter instead of biannually?
Yes. Ms. Kleiner?
Yes, so I'll just go back. The Board of Aldermen approves the amount that is transferred from the general fund into the property and casualty fund. So for fiscal '22, you approved 4.2 million. That gets transferred, it's been practiced that is transferred in 2 installments, one in July and one in January. That is just the practice of the city. I would assume cash flow and other reasons. But we do not think that this is a serious problem. We're certainly not raising any red flags. You see these types of trends go up and down. So back in 2018, for instance, you had one year that you had an IBNR of 600,000 and the next, rise, and then the next year it went down over 600,000. This is quite common. This goes with the fluctuation of claims. Our claims have remained fairly stable. So we don't see this as a reason to adjust how we are being fiscally responsible or how we are doing things. The risk department, our adjusters, do an amazing job. They handle these claims, and they're very well versed in what they need to do, how they need to book these reserves, as well as what to expect a case to take the life of.
Okay. Any other questions from the Alderman? Alderman Jettie?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So I know that, workers' compensation, is a system, it's a no-fault system. So, the fact that we have these unusually large claims that the mayor referred to, it doesn't mean that the city did something, violated some duty towards the worker, and it doesn't mean that the worker did something wrong. It was more, I don't know any of the details, but these workers' comp claims are just accidents that happen. And if they are work-related, if they happen on the job or related to the job, then, the system provides for compensation to the worker. But I want to, hear from you some reassurance that that this does not reflect on any, lack of worker safety on the part of the city, and that there's nothing that the city is neglecting as far as our workers are concerned, and that, these claims just happen, and this doesn't necessarily mean they're going to happen, or are going to happen in the future. Can you reassure me about that?
I'd like to ask Mr. Shays to speak to that.
So these three,
Go ahead.
I'm sorry. These three cases are not the fault of, as you said, the employee or the city. They're not safety concerns either. Two of them were from firemen fighting fires, and the third one was a motor vehicle accident in which the third party was at fault.
Okay, thank you.
All set,
You're welcome.
Alderman Jettie? All
Yes,
set?
thank you.
Anyone else? Yes, Alderman Lou?
I just want to ask for some clarification on, there's been a lot of talk about when we have a public hearing, whether it's time for us to ask questions or whether we're meant to allow the public to ask questions or comment. I have questions, but having received this just now, I would be more ready to ask questions after I've looked at it.
You could stay for the budget hearing, and you could also ask questions tomorrow night at the Board of Aldermen meeting.
Exactly, yeah, absolutely. I just wanted to kind of give a heads up that I may have a problem asking questions tonight. And also, do we?
I know there's been concern in the past about aldermen asking questions, but I feel that since the Board of Aldermen are going to be voting on it, this is the time to ask the questions, especially to clarify exactly what we're addressing. So it's not that we're not going to open it up to the general public, although there's nobody online and nobody in the chambers, so. Alderman Lou?
Just to follow up, I wonder if that demonstrates the difficulty of having a public hearing before a committee hearing. The public hasn't had the chance to look at the detail that we just got tonight. So, thank you.
Yeah, of course, the final decision is made by the Board of Aldermen tomorrow night. Any other questions? Alderman Clee?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I think kind of talking about what Alderman Lopez had mentioned about the predictability of this. You mentioned that it's 3 individuals. You mentioned that they all had surgery of some sort. And I don't want to ask for anything specific, but are we prepared if like all the surgeries are done in one single year? do we expect that year to be a high-cost year, and perhaps the next year might not be as cost? So I trust in your judgment, and I agree with what Director Kleiner has said about that you're all doing a wonderful job. I have no reason to deny that, but, so is this part of the predictability that you're kind of doing as far as your actuaries are concerned?
So the cases, the claims adjusters adjust these, or reserve these cases on the worst-case scenario. So we base it off the medicals we receive and our experience with handling these types of cases. So yes, these cases are all been reserved, if I may, for worst case. That doesn't mean you're not gonna see the reserve change due to, let's just say, somebody returns to work sooner than we think, or they go another 6 weeks of PT. The surgeries have already happened for every one of these individuals.
Follow up?
Yes, thank you. So I guess I was a little confused then, and it's just, I do fairly understand workman's comp cases, but you referred to these as the claims are open for the life of a person.
Mm-hmm.
So that would mean that in 5 years down the road, if they had additional issues to that, it would still be part of that original workman's comp.
Correct.
Is that correct? So
Correct.
that's what you meant by the life of the person, not necessarily that the person was out of work forever. You
Right,
just
not
meant
the
that-
life of the claim, correct. So the
Right.
claim may close, and we may not see any other activity on it for the life of that person. Or, 5 years down the road, they may come back and due to a failed surgery or something like that. It could happen.
Thank you for the clarification.
Alderman, yeah, Mrs. Kleiner?
No.
It was just the company you were keeping over there.
Thank you, Chair. I just wanted to say that, so when we book this incurred but not received amount, which this year is, over $541,000, that goes against the fund and into a reserve. So as this is being trended out by our actuaries, the money that they feel that the city needs to have, should these claims reach the levels, that they have reserved for it, that money's there. That's over $4 million at this point, but that's what happens. It gets booked against the fund. So our property and casualty fund, in this case, goes down. It has in some years gone up, and and it's booked to a reserve so that the money to pay the claims is there for the city.
May
Okay.
I ask one quick question?
Quick question?
Yes, thank you. Pardon my, and I'm going to refer to myself as pardon my ignorance here, but when I'm looking at that very first sheet that you gave us, you talked about total revenue. Is the revenue interest that's made from us just having the money in the bank, or what is the revenue from?
So the revenue, sorry.
Mrs. Kleiner?
Excuse me, Chair. The revenue includes what's transferred from the general fund each year. There's interest, and then there's also a transfer from wastewater, from the wastewater budget to cover the claims of property, automobile, not just workman's comp, many different things. And then there's also the wonderful work that our risk department does in recoveries. So getting money from third parties that are responsible.
Perfect, thank you so much.
Anyone else? Alderman Lou?
What does IBNR stand for?
It's
Mr. Shane?
incurred but not reported.
Thank you. And one other question. I noticed that the automobile costs have doubled since last year, I think, or doubled at some point, 393, yeah. Do we have more automobiles on the road right now than we did in 2020 that are insured through this plan? Or are they just getting in twice as many accidents?
I don't necessarily think they're getting in twice as many accidents. It could be for just the reason of it's a more serious accident,
Yeah.
not necessarily their fault either. But no, we don't have any more vehicles on the road than we did in 2020 that I'm aware of, other than for COVID reasons, I guess. We maybe didn't have as many, I'm not sure. I don't know, I'm not really sure of that answer.
These are all like DPW and everything, right?
That includes the whole city and school.
Thank you.
Everyone all set? All right, I'll open up to the public for testimony in favor of R21-177 relative to supplemental appropriation of $250,000 of FY21 assigned fund balance into fund number 6500 property and casualty self-insurance fund. Is there no one in the audience? There's no public online, so there is none. Testimony in opposition? Again, for the same reason, seeing none. Testimony once again in favor? None. Testimony in opposition? None. And I hear a motion from Alderman Wiltshire to close the public hearing on resolution R21-177.
I'll make motion to adjourn.
Would the clerk please call the roll?
Alderman O'Brien,
Yes.
Alderman Clee,
Yes.
Alderwoman Kelly,
Yes.
Alderman Dowd,
Yes.
Alderman Karen,
Yes.
Alderman Clemmons,
Yes.
Alderman Lopez,
Yes.
Alderman Tenza,
Yes.
Alderwoman Lou,
Yes.
Alderman Jettie,
Yes.
Alderman Laws,
Yes.
Alderman Harriet Gathright,
Yes.
and Alderman Wiltshire.
Yes.
All right, you have 13 yeas and 0 nays.
All right, public hearing is closed at 7:26 PM. And now do I hear a motion from Alderman O'Brien?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'd like to make a motion that the October 25th, 2021 special meeting of the Board of Aldermen be adjourned by roll call.
Alderman O'Brien,
Yes.
Alderman Clee,
Yes.
Alderwoman Kelly,
Yes.
Alderman Dowd,
Yes.
Alderman Karen,
Yes.
Alderman Clemmons,
Why not? Yes.
Alderman Lopez,
Of course, yes.
Alderman Tenza,
Yes.
Alderwoman Lou,
Yes.
Alderman Jettie,
Yes.
Alderman Laws,
Yes.
Alderman Harriet Gathright,
Yes.
and Alderman Wiltshire.
Yes.
You have 13 yeas and 0 nays.
And we are adjourned at 7:27 PM. Thank you. 2 minutes, we'll start the budget meeting. Just put it on.
You don't want to have
Oh, take it up for you. All set? I'd like to open the Budget Review Committee. It's October 25th, 2021, and we're in the Aldermanic Chamber via live and Zoom. The meeting link can be found on the agenda.
Thank you.
Would the clerk please call the roll? You want to do
I
it?
will. Alderman Dowd,
Present.
Alderman Clemmons,
Here.
Alderman Wilshire,
Here?
Alderman O'Brien,
Present.
Alderwoman Kelly. Here. Alderman Schmidt, Alderman Jettie.
Here. We have a quorum. Okay. Public comment, is there anyone that wishes to speak on the items on the agenda? Seeing no one. Communications, there's none. Unfinished business, none. New business resolutions. Alderman O'Brien, do you want to? R21-177?
Yes, before us this evening is R-21-177, relative to supplemental appropriations of $250,000 of fiscal year 2021, assigned fund balance into fund number 6500, Property and Casualty Self-Insurance Fund. Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion for final passage.
Motion on the floor is for final passage of R21-177. Are there any questions? Seeing none? I think we're all online. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Next item is R21-178. Alderman O'Brien.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Also before us is R-21-178, changing the use of funds for a community development capital improvements project from master plan to land use code update. Mr. Chairman, I would like to make a motion to recommend final passage.
The motion on the floor is for final passage of R21-178. Are there any questions? Alderman Jettie?
Yeah, just to understand this a little better, I think the purpose of this is to provide money to convert the recommendations in the master plan to legislation to amend the land use code. And I'm wondering, why do we need money? Is there an outside, we going outside to do this? Our legal department is not capable, or not, they don't have the staff necessary, or?
Yeah, it wouldn't be the legal department. They do have a consultant to help them through the land use code. It's sort of just to clarify the use of the funding. And that's about it, because the master plan always had an effect that they were going to undertake the land use code, which is the zoning. So they're now just gonna focus, they've done the master plan, now they're gonna focus on the land use code part of it. So when they address the different items in changing zoning and everything, they have a consultant, I believe. I can't for the life of me remember his name, but to help them with that.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? All right. So the motion on the floor is for final passage of R21-178. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. New business ordinances? There are none.
There are none.
Tabled in committee? None. General discussion? Okay, none. Public comment? There's no members of the public in the chamber or online asking to speak, so there is none. Remarks by Alderman? Just one thing, the city has numerous departments that deal with hazardous things all the time. I'm sure Alderman O'Brien can mention that fire department, if you're in a building and the roof above you collapses, a lot of people can get hurt. We've been very fortunate that that doesn't happen that often. Police officers, when they're making arrests, can get severe injuries from somebody that doesn't like the fact they're getting cuffed. So there are and of course, Public Works is working with heavy equipment every single day. So there's a lot of places where people can get hurt, and I think we've done a really great job managing those. So just wanted to say that. Alderman O'Brien.
Yes, thank you. I was going to say anything, Alderman Dowd, but I'd like to thank you for bringing that point up. Usually my career on the fire department has been based upon the premise. Probably right now at this given moment, somebody out there may think that there's too many firemen. But then when there's a fire in this community, there isn't enough, you know? And when it comes down to these guys do superhuman things at times, maybe if there was a construction company and they could look at things and probably get adequate staffing, and although they do call in to help, but at those times, it's the necessity. And I think Alderman Dowd remembers how at one time during a budget hearing, people were discussing here how they were going to look to possibly even cut some money from the fire department. And guess what happened down the street?
We had a fire up the street.
They were out fighting a 3 to 4 alarm fire. So it goes to prove it's usually Murphy's Law when you don't expect it. But thank you, Alderman Dowd, for bringing that point home. I appreciate it.
Well, it hit me because I remember when the roof collapsed on top of you one evening, and
Oh, yes.
you're Irish, so you didn't get hurt.
We could discuss that. If the good people want to hear that story, I'm willing to share some of that.
Okay, we don't need a non-public. Alderman O'Brien.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I would like to make a motion to adjourn.
The motion on the floor is to adjourn. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. We're adjourned at 7:37. Thank you, everyone, for being here in person. We don't have to do roll call votes if there's nobody online, so that makes things go.